I'm Tia. Welcome back to my channel, Genres and Journals. Today I want to share with you all of the books that I read during the month of January. So in January, I was able to read 13 things. 4 of them were manga, 1 was a graphic novel, and 1 is a book that I read a little over half in January and then finished up at the beginning of February, but I'm counting it here since I read most of it in January, and I don't want to forget it by the end of February. Not that I think I will forget it, but just in case, I'm going to include it here. So let's just jump into the books. I'm going to show these in the order that I read them instead of trying to do it from least to most favorite, which is what I used to do. This time I'm just going to do it in the order that I read them. Anyway, so the first book that I read in the month of January was The Family Game by Catherine Steadman. So this one I decided to read because it was set kind of around Christmas time and I had been wanting to read it for a while, so I finally picked it up and I'm glad that I did. I do think that this one had a bit of a slow start, but by the end I was fully invested and I was taken by surprise by the ending. You know, a lot of times when you read thrillers, you sort of see the ending coming right before it happens, but at the beginning of the book, you never would have guessed that. That's how I felt about this one. So this one is about a girl who, she's a writer. She writes mystery novels, actually, which is pretty cool. And she has become engaged to this guy who is part of this really wealthy family, kind of like historically wealthy in the United States, like the Vanderbilts. I don't know all of those really wealthy big name families in the United States. I don't really know who they are, but just think that's what his family is like. And she hasn't gotten to meet them yet. And he decides that he wants to take her home around Thanksgiving and Christmas and sort of meet his family then and be involved in all of their holiday escapades. And she sort of comes to learn that it's a pretty big deal to be a part of this family and that things are a little bit crazy and yeah, things kind of go nuts. So like I said, I wasn't sure about this one at the beginning. One of the things that did drive me crazy, which I'll mention, is that it has that trope where the narrator is constantly saying, if they only knew what I was really like, if they only knew what I had done in the past, if they only knew about this thing that happened a long time ago. She thinks that and like says it in her mind over and over and over throughout the whole entire story, that you're just like, oh my gosh, if you don't just tell me what that thing is right now, I'm going to stop reading this book. But I didn't. Anyway, I made it to the end and yeah, it was a good book and I recommend it. I gave this one 4 stars. I think the beginning was more of a 3, but definitely by the end it had bumped up to a 4-star read. Okay, then I picked up a graphic novel that I had been wanting to read. So this one is called The Star Seekers, Volume 1. It is created by Hybe, which is a K-pop company out of Korea. And this one is the graphic novel webtoon turned graphic novel that is based around TXT or Tomorrow by Together. And I am a fan of their group and I wanted to know what their graphic novel was all about. Now, I don't know if you are not into TXT, if you would be interested in this or not, but the storyline is basically that they are this K-pop group and in this world, all of the K-pop stars have like superpowers, but this group doesn't have any. They haven't manifested yet. And so it's like a pretty big deal. They're seen as like less than everybody else and like, why are they here? Why are they even considered K-pop stars if they don't have powers? So yeah, you just kind of follow them as they work their way through this world and some stuff happens obviously, but I don't want to tell you too much more than that just in case you are interested. But I would say if you are a fan of TXT that you might, go ahead and pick this up, or you could read it for free on the Webtoons app. And yeah, I gave this a 3. I think that the story was good because I like them as a group, and that maybe, if I didn't like them, I don't know if I would have liked this that much. The story was a little bit confusing and kind of all over the place, but like I said, if you're into K-pop or TXT specifically, I would check this out. If not, you might want to give it a pass. Then I read a nonfiction called The Office BFFs, Tales of the Office from Two Best Friends Who Were There by Jenna Fisher and Angela Kinsey. So I read this to be part of the Buzzword Readathon challenge that Books and Lala is hosting, oh my gosh, what are words, throughout the whole year. And I will leave a link to her announcement video down below if you would like to join in. I don't think it's too late. I think you can join in whenever. But anyway, so the word there was the prompt for the month of January. There, all the different ways that you can spell there. And this is the only one on my shelf that had one of those variations in it, so that's why I picked this one out. I'm sorry there's like a glare on the covers. I'm trying to turn the book so that it doesn't shine too much on you. Anyway, so like I said, and like the title says, this is stories about The Office, the sitcom, from two of the main characters who were on the show throughout the whole time. And I absolutely loved this. I listened to part of it on audio while looking through here because there are a ton of like pictures and stuff, and even like notes that they had written to each other, and receipts, and call sheets, and all different kinds of things. I mean, they did a great job like keeping all of that memorabilia and having stuff to be able to look back on, which I guess maybe if you were in a show like this, you would do the same thing. But I started thinking, man, I don't have stuff from that many years ago. But anyway, I love The Office, and I love these two women. Pam was one of my absolute favorite characters, and I did like Angela as well, but obviously not as much as Pam. But them together, they are just so funny, and their friendship is one to be admired. And you know, like friendship goals for real. They're just awesome. And I'm sure you probably already know, if you're into The Office, that they have a podcast now. And I would like to rewatch The Office and then listen to the podcast with them, because I think they go over each episode, or not every single episode, but a lot of the episodes, and then talk about them on the podcast. But this book is great if you want to hear or read little snippets about different episodes in The Office. It was very, very interesting, and I loved every second of it. I don't know. I was kind of stuck between 4 and 5 stars on this one, though. I think that it is worth 5 stars, but for me, I usually don't give 5 stars unless I could see myself rereading a book, like, you know, and it being like a, not necessarily an all-time fave, but something that I would want to reread in the future. And I just don't know if I see myself rereading this. I'm not a huge rereader of nonfiction, so it's kind of between a 4 and a 5 stars for me. But yes, if you love The Office, or you're just getting into The Office or whatever, I highly recommend this. It was very interesting, a lot of fun, and just a very enjoyable read. Then I picked up What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. This one is a horror / fantasy. It has fantastical elements, but also horror elements. I'm not really sure how to classify it, and it's very, very short. This really, I didn't think this was going to bother me, but it ended up really getting into my head. So this is, I think, what people classify as fungi horror, and it is a retelling of the fall of the House of Usher, and I just really enjoyed this. I flew through it. I thought it was very well written. The retelling aspect was great. It's been a while since I've read that. I do want to go back and reread that. It's a pretty short story as well. And yeah, I mean, it was really gross and it was kind of slow at first, like filling you with dread, slow moving, getting you involved in like the atmosphere and the characters. And then it just really hit you with everything, and it really got into my head. And I don't know, I think fungi horror might be my sweet spot for horror, because it was like, it was disgusting and disturbing, but at the same time so engrossing, and just like, it just had me, man. I don't know. I highly recommend this. I definitely think this is between a 4 and 5 star as well. I have the second one in this. I think it's going to be a duology. I'm not sure if it's going to be more than just two books. I think it's called the Sworn Soldier series, and I do have the second one of this on NetGalley, so I'm hoping to read that soon. I don't know if that one's going to be a retelling of something or not, but yeah. I think this is my first T. Kingfisher, and I'm definitely planning on reading more. So if you have other recommendations for what I should read next from her, definitely leave them down below, because I would love to read more from her. Her writing was really good, and the slow build of events was just perfect. It was perfect. Then I picked up The Kinsmen Universe by Alona Andrews, and this was a buddy read that I did with my friend Amy over at Zoe Beck. We have been buddy reading all of Alona Andrews' books together over the last couple of years, and the Kinsmen books are the very last series that we need to read from them to be able to be all caught up. So Alona Andrews is a husband and wife writing duo, and they write sci-fi, urban fantasy, paranormal romance series, and this one is more of a sci-fi romance series, I would say. It takes place on different planets, and you're following different people who have been genetically and technologically altered to have special abilities, and there are certain families who have bigger abilities and who have been around longer and sort of control a lot of the wealth and power on different planets. And this one in particular, this book here, is a bind up of 3 different short stories that start at the beginning of this series, and you're introduced to different characters and more of the world. And then we have one more book that's a little bit longer that we're going to read in February. That'll be the end of this series. But I gave this one 3 stars. I felt like these stories were really short and made it hard to get invested in the characters. While I liked the world building and everything that we were being introduced to through the world and the sci-fi aspects, I didn't feel a strong connection with the characters, and overall they just were less memorable, I think, than some of Alona Andrews' other series. But I'm excited to read the next one. Since it's longer, I think that maybe it'll be a little bit better than this first one, but it was still enjoyable. Like I said, it definitely wasn't bad. It just isn't one of their best. Next, I read The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz, and this is a book that I got from Book of the Month as one of my January picks. I have since unhauled it. I sold it on Pango, so I'm going to put a picture up here. But this is a book that I heard a lot about towards the end of last year. A lot of people were talking about it, and it sounded really interesting. It had, people were saying it was like an isolated vibe, snowed in trope with like authors and stuff. And I really thought that sounded intriguing. So I picked it up, and I was so disappointed. Oh my gosh, I was so disappointed in this book. So it follows this young woman who is in the publishing industry, and she wants to become an author. It's like, what she's always wanted to do. And she finds out that there is this contest to be mentored by one of her favorite authors, this really well-known female author who has written a lot of like notorious boundary pushing novels. And she is hosting a contest where she is going to have, I think it was 4 that she wanted to win, come and stay with her over like 1 month. And I think it was February. It was definitely a winter month. I feel like it was February. It could have been January though, but anyway, and they are going to get to stay with her and basically be in like a writing retreat, like a workshop, and she was going to help them with their work. But anyway, so I don't want to tell you the whole story, but essentially, our main girl, she gets accepted into this writing retreat, and everything is just crazy there. Okay, it's crazy pants. The whole thing was absolutely crazy pants. And I'm okay with crazy stuff in books, but I feel like this one was so out there for me. I can see how it would be enjoyable for other people who are maybe, okay with the things that were happening in the book. But I feel like I wasn't like forewarned. And if I had known that some of these things were in the book, I probably would not have read it. So I'm going to let you know right here. So just skip ahead a couple of minutes if you don't want to know absolutely anything else about this book. But if you want to know, I'm going to tell you right here. So this girl has a friend. You find out in the book that they are like estranged, and as things progress, you gradually learn what's happened between them in the past. And so one of the things that happened between them, to me, felt like a non-consensual sexual relationship. Okay, it was very uncomfortable and very cringy, and the way that things happened between them just felt really non-con to me. Okay. Like kind of rapey. That's how I felt. And then I did not enjoy reading about it. And then some stuff goes down at the house during the retreat that again feels not between these two particular girls, but between another pair of girls, that also feels really non-consensual as well, and involves some drugs. Okay. So when you're on drugs out of your mind and some stuff goes down, clearly that's non-consensual. It was just, it was madness is what it was. And it just felt, the sexual aspects felt very uncomfortable because they didn't feel like the two partners were consenting in what was happening. Anyway, so spoilers over. I gave this book a 2, but the more I think about it, I think my enjoyment level was more like a 1, if I'm being honest. The first part was super slow, kind of boring, and then the parts that got crazy were definitely page-turnery, but made me really uncomfortable the whole entire way through, and I didn't enjoy it at all, and I immediately put it up on Pango and sold it, and now it's out of my possession, and I don't plan on ever reading this author again. Okay, moving on. Then I picked up a rom-com, which I felt like I needed after reading The Writing Retreat, and this is called Hot Shot Doc by R.S. Gray. R.S. Gray is a independently published romance author, and I had read some stuff before, so I knew that she was kind of lighthearted and fun, and I'm really glad that I picked this one up. It was definitely what I needed at this point during the month. This one follows a surgical tech whose doctor that she's been working for years has decided to finally retire, and she needs to find someone else to work for in the hospital because she doesn't want to have to move. She has guardianship over her teenage sister, and she doesn't want to have to uproot her to move her somewhere else. So anyway, there is this guy there that everyone's afraid of. He's kind of like the grumpy doctor surgeon on the floor who is very meticulous about his surgeries and not very friendly. And yeah, so I really, really enjoyed this. It was funny at times. It was heartwarming at times. I really enjoyed both of these main characters and getting to know them more and getting to see their romance. I enjoyed the sister relationship in here, and I can't say enough good things about this. Now, my only concern is, was I feeling more favorable to this because I disliked The Writing Retreat so much? Is that what made me like this so much? Or was it really just that great? I don't know. But I gave it some 4 stars. I can see that it's not perfect, but I really enjoyed it, and I plan on reading more from R.S. Gray in the future. Then I picked up a cozy mystery. This is On Borrowed Time by Jen McKinley. This is either the 5th or 6th book in the Library Lovers mystery. I'm not exactly sure on the number. I think it's the 5th. But anyway, so definitely you're not going to want to start here if you're interested in this book series. Let me just tell you what this series is about in case you want to pick it up in the future. So this is following a librarian who works for a library in Connecticut, and it's a very cozy New England seaside town that she works at. All of the people in the town, are big characters, and it's just a lot of fun, small town cozy vibes. Obviously there's always going to be some sort of murder or crime that happens in all of the books, and our main character gets herself involved in all of them. This one in particular involves her brother. He comes to town and some crazy hijinks ensues. So this one in particular was not my favorite out of the series. I think it was kind of all over the place, and I don't know how to tell you what wasn't my favorite without giving spoilers away for the series, but I looked up a lot of reviews for this and I saw that a lot of people felt the same way, but they do say that once you get past this one, that things get back to normal, that they, you know, start to become beloved characters again. But I really love these characters, and I really love the friendships in this series, and so I'm definitely going to push on with it. But there were some aspects of this one in particular that just were not the best. So yeah. Okay, then at that point in the month, I picked up The Clockmaker's Daughter by Kate Morton, and this is the one that I ended up not finishing until February. And so while I was reading this one, because it was a pretty dense, heavy novel, I did pick up some manga to read in between times. Like I would read some of The Clockmaker's Daughter and then read some manga, like kind of switching back and forth. And I reread number 1 in the Witch Hat Atelier series. And then I continued on and read volume 2, 3, and 4, and I have already read some more in the month of February as well. So judging by that, you can tell that I really like this series. This is a great series so far. I've really, really enjoyed it. It's following our main character, Coco, who is just enamored with magic. She has always, you know, sort of wanted to know more about magic, but she doesn't have really any experience with it. She's never really met any witches or seen too much magic in her life until one day she does come across some magic and some things in her life go awry, and she ends up becoming a witch apprentice. So it's following her in her journey throughout the series, and it's just adorable. The artwork in here is stunning. It's some of the best artwork that I've ever seen in manga. It's a very innocent feeling series, and the rating on it is for 10 and over, and my kids have been reading the books after I get done with them as well, and they have been enjoying them too. Now I can't speak to the whole entire series. I've only read through volume 6 at this point, but I highly recommend these for ages 10 and up. A lot of fun. Okay, and then the last book I'm going to include here is The Clockmaker's Daughter, because I am finished with it at this point. And like I said at the beginning, I did read most of it in the month of January, so I want to include it here. But this book, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to explain this book without there being spoilers. But this is a multiple timeline book with many, many, many characters. So there are so many different timelines that I can't even explain them all to you. But probably the main one is in the present day, which is like 2017. And then in the past in the 1800s, which I can't remember, 1862 is probably the other like main one. But there are several other ones with different characters and timelines that build and gradually grow and all interweave and make sense together. So I was worried about this for a while because I've heard that this isn't her best book, and the only other one of hers that I've read is The Lake House, which I absolutely loved. But this one is pretty long. It's like 480 something pages, and that's intimidating on its own. And then to hear that people weren't loving it as much was a little bit hard. But I think that this is a bit of a slow book, okay? It's slow moving because you're being introduced to all of these different plot points and all of these different characters, and it's taking time to work all of these storylines together and weave this intricate story. But I absolutely loved this. I wasn't sure I was going to, you know, a few hundred pages, or actually like 100 pages in, but it was just so beautiful by the end. The ending absolutely had me shook, devastated, like I didn't know what to do, but I definitely would give this book a 5-star. It has to be my favorite one that I've read so far this year. I don't know if I can say I highly recommend this, because I don't think that Kate Morton would work for everyone out there. You definitely have to be ready for a slow moving, intricately plotted book that has a lot of details and a lot of characters in it. And if that's not your thing, if you're into more of a fast moving, plot driven book, then a slowly woven character driven book, I guess this is character driven. I'm not sure if it's character driven or just what, but there's a mystery throughout here that you definitely want to get to the bottom of. And wow, I don't know what else to say about this except for I absolutely loved it. And I'm glad that I took the time to sit down and read the whole entire thing and that I didn't give up along the way. So yeah, definitely if you like Kate Morton, I think that you would like this book. But if you want to start with Kate Morton, I probably wouldn't start here. I think The Forgotten Garden might be her most popular book, which I haven't read yet, but I have read The Lake House and I do recommend that one as well. Anyway, that's it. Those are all the books that I read during the month of January. I would love to hear in the comments what you read this month, or if you have read any of these books that I mentioned, what you thought about them, and based on these books, if you have any other recommendations for me, I would love to hear that as well. If you would like to follow me on Instagram, I have been this year posting more regularly, and I'm hoping to keep that up. So I will leave that link down in the description box as well. Other than that, I hope you have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye.